literally record-breaking box office this weekend.
Yes, look at that. Coming in at number 1 with 360 million domestic, and according to the numbers, 941 million worldwide. But I believe some publications have already called it did hit $1 billion, depending on who you believe it.
Well, I maybe end of today or tomorrow, but certainly this week it's going to hit $1 billion without question. Fastest movie to $1 billion ever. It beat. They actually adjusted the numbers. I believe it was 356 domestic box office, and then they readjusted to 360 domestic. Global is an insane. What is it? 940.
941. Yeah, and it wasn't even in a single IMAX theater.
Yes. Well, guess what? There's news on that. Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming to IMAX this Friday. Or it might be Thursday. So Odyssey is now out of not all the IMAX screens.
Yeah.
But
let's look at Odyssey drops an embarrassing 43%. Look at this. Limping along, 912 million. Limping is the right one. It's a word to use here. The Steam is gone. It is gonna, if it even reaches $1 billion.
Yeah, and I think I saw that like the Spider-Man movie, someone wrote an article saying that like it reached this without IMAX. Like they made a point to point that out. They're like, without IMAX is what it did, and now they're adding IMAX showings.
IMAX.
Guess what? People spent a third of the ticket price to pay for a Spider-Man ticket than they did an Odyssey ticket.
Yeah.
What else rounds out the top 10, Alan? Let's go through quickly.
Yes. Well, the other $1 billion movie, Toy Story 5, comes in third. Minions and Monsters, all the kids' movies. Moana, Hadestown. Children love musicals. The Invite, because children love the people in that movie. I can't remember. Evil Dead Burn. I Want Your Sex, which I had the misfortune of watching. Young Washington. Obsession, Backrooms, Motor City. There you go. But the big news is Spider-Man destroys the Odyssey. Odyssey is weak in its wake.
Well, that is crazy. What do we take from this? And let's hear your panel review your thoughts on Spider-Man Brand New Day. My review was, I thought it was better than the Odyssey. I think it's bloated at 25 minutes too long. And you could have cut Yelena out. You could have cut down on side characters. You could have focused this film. But as we chatted even before the stream, there were whole plot lines cut out. Rosario Dawson had a character gone. J.K. Simmons has a credit in the movie. He's on IMDb. I didn't see him. He's not in the film.
No.
This movie was remade, and it turned into, well, what it is now. But what are your thoughts? Go around the horn, everybody. Your thoughts on the film? What you thought?
Who wants to start?
I'll kick it off.
Jump in.
I'll go. I'll start it. I freaking love this movie. I had actually fairly low expectations. I, like a lot of y'all, were worried that it was going to be a mess, and with how much that we knew that they were stuffing into this, it's like all these MCU characters, one of the biggest things being the Hulk coming in. I was like, oh no, like no more Mark Ruffalo, please. I'm good. And then actually, I thought, not only do I rarely like Ruffalo's acting, I thought he was pretty good in this. The character was in it just enough. It wasn't too much. This movie feels like a 8 to 10 like comic run. And issue run, and it really does feel like you've got these little bits and parts of these other side stories, but there's this main thread pulling through this whole run, and I thought it was fantastic. I had a great time with it. I got out of the movie and I was like, I want to see it again, like right now. There's a lot of meat on the bones here. Now, I mean, it's not without its problems for sure, but it's also always going to be tethered to the MCU's version of the Spider-Man. This still is that version. We can't change that. And so that is where some of the problems arise. And I think that putting the Punisher in this movie might have been the best decision they made. That is one of the, and not to say that he is the best part, but their dynamic together and through line is some of the best stuff in this movie. I think it was great. And actually, side note about the box office stuff that I was blown away with is that I went to my local theater yesterday. It was showing 62 times yesterday, and The Odyssey was showing 12. So
it's great for theaters. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I actually had high expectations for this movie because I loved the trailers so much. So I was going in there with really high expectations. I found myself not really being like 100% on board or sold on the MCU's Spider-Man. I've never really liked him very much. Like, I liked the first movie was fine. His solo first movie was fine. Didn't like the second one. And I think the third one, what helped me like that movie was the fact that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were in it. Like, that's what really helped me on the third one. So I was really looking forward to this one because I was like, the trailers look amazing. And I've already seen it twice. It's such a good movie. It is such a good movie. Are there flaws with it? Yes. Probably everybody on the panel, I would have cut out Yelena. That feels like a completely tacked on. It feels like it's from a completely different movie. I would have actually liked to see more of the conversation with Peter Parker and Bruce Banner because of the inhibitor. They had a really good conversation started like at the very end, and then he sort of like walks away when they're like, you have that universal inhibitor. That's kind of dangerous. How would you choose who to put that on? So that was really interesting. And then he sort of just walked away from that conversation. I don't know if that's setting something up later on down the road. But that was a really good conversation. I kind of wanted more with that. The Punisher was sort of, for me, he was kind of like a caricature of the Punisher because he was just grunting and yelling. But I liked the dynamic between John Bernthal and Tom Holland. I thought it worked really well, and at its emotional core, I mean, it is so incredibly good. You can feel everything that this character is feeling, even when he has his mask on for the majority of the time. So it's such a great movie, and when he has his mask off and he has to perform and these really emotional scenes, I mean, he just killed it. Like, he was great in the movie. This really was his movie. I mean, it was so good. Even though we had these side characters, I wanted to get back to Spider. You're with him the entire time, and that's something that I appreciated. You are with this Spider-Man the entire movie. It's so good. I can't wait to see it again. I'm actually planning on going and seeing it in IMAX because it's just that good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the puberty blockers. I mean, the super power blocker, the powers blockers as a big part of the movie. I don't know if they were trying to say something with that. That may tie into the X-Men. And
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
later.
Like, that
Big
could like
time.
tie into the cure for the X-Men. Maybe they'll expand upon it then. But if they don't, it's such a waste because it's a really interesting plot line of the movie that they just sort of, okay, we're moving now. Well, let's move on.
They borderline made
see it
Peter
again.
They almost made him the villain of the Spider-Man, the villain of the X-Men. Like, he's clearly creating the tech that's gonna cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And
the villain. I forgot to mention the villain. The villain. It was. I didn't like that there were no ramifications for it. It was very reminiscent of the Scarlet Witch and her show. Like, they'll never know what you sacrificed. So I didn't really appreciate that. I didn't want her to just ride off away with nothing. But I'm making stuff up in my head as my own personal headcanon, as most of us do.
What
happens to her later?
Consequences.
I was thinking that too. Like, maybe there's something off screen, maybe that we're not seeing to resolve.
I think
that. Go ahead.
That's the biggest sticking point for, I think, most of us is how they dealt with the villain aspect of it with Jean Grey. I like the movie. I really love this movie. It's in the 8s for me. I'm not exactly sure what level of a high 8, low 8, middle 8, whatever, but highly enjoyable. Very flawed. The narrative, there's some issues. Yelena is just tacked on, doesn't belong in here. She could have been an email. There's a lot of other like issues. There's a lot of other issues with pacing. I think it is a little long. I think the major issue everybody's got is Jean Grey. I don't know what Marvel plans on doing after this, but it didn't it didn't mess with my enjoyment of the movie. I enjoyed the movie, and actually, the more I hear people talk about the Jean Grey situation, the more I'm like, this isn't a big deal for me. You know, I think Jean Grey has just always been this kind of a character, not necessarily saying evil like she was in this, but you know, complex. And so
I don't
I'm
think she was
interested
evil.
to see what Marvel does from here. How do they handle what they've set up? Because they've kind of written themselves into a corner, and I'm hoping they have some way to write themselves out.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's because she's this is why I think that like they do this with a lot of the female characters, especially like when I look at not Black Widow, the Scarlet Witch, because she was a hero before. They're like, okay, there's no consequences for her because we still want people to look at her and view her as a hero. And since Jean Grey becomes part of the X-Men later, they're like, oh, well, we can't have her go full villain just yet, even though they really do. She kills people in this movie. They're like, well, we have to make her seem like morally gray. So we have to make her backstory, give her backstory, make her sympathetic. But with this movie, if you're going to have her be the villain, have her be the villain. You know, she can redeem herself later. Just let her be the villain in this movie. Give her some ramifications. Like have there be consequences for her action instead of her just not having any.
You know, I said this before the show, but you know, Chris and I are probably the only ones here who were alive when Jean Grey was killed in the comic books. Most people don't even know her because she was already dead at that point. But for me, it was like, they ruined Jean Grey right off the bat because they could have told her actual story by just maybe making this character someone different. Look, what they're doing, and the thing I hate the most about what they do with these comic book movies is they've already made Jean Grey Dark Phoenix before she got a chance to be just Jean Grey. And that's what I'm frustrated with about the handling of Jean Grey in this film.
Hot take, she didn't actually kill one person. I went back the second time to look for any direct kills, and they're not there. Even the sanitation guy that backs in and gets hit by the car, man, X is full of people getting hit by cars at a lot faster speed than that, and they all live.
Well, what you didn't see was that Jean Grey used her powers Jean Grey used her powers to lift the person up from the air and then gently place them down on the ground.
Sure.
So that there was no CT.
When you watch it again, look on screen for the exact moment you think.
I'm curious to see how it's going to feel the second time around because, like I said, like even watching it once, I was just like, okay, Jean Grey's a villain. We've seen, villains become heroes before, so it doesn't really mess with me like that. We'll see how it unfolds. I'm willing to give Marvel an opportunity. Now, if they don't have a way to write themselves out of this and it just ends up being, we just forgot about it and she's a good girl in the next movie and there's nothing, then it's like, okay, this was dog shit. Like, why did you guys do it this way? I honestly think that Jean Grey was supposed to be a different character. Maybe Mr. Negative or somebody else. I honestly believe, and they just switched it up because they wanted to get Jean Grey introduced and start introducing X-Men. And I think they just switched the character because this doesn't make sense for Jean Grey.
I think they mirrored it though with, or how Peter Parker could empathize with Jean Grey was because when his power was mutating or evolving, he lost control and very severely looked like he injured a cop, was in the line of fire while he was going after Scorpion. So I feel like he kind of allows us to feel that empathy in that respect. And she didn't know the fate of person. Anyways, I don't want to get into spoilers, but I just want it didn't bother me as far as that. It is the weakest part of the film. Mostly Tremel Tillman, his character, I think he's such a good actor. And if you've seen him on Severance, he's so good. And I feel like he was kind of wasted here. His character was not very complex, very generic. And toward the end was kind of, I don't know, very thin. But this man was just, I swear, like you were saying earlier, Steph, this felt like Tom Holland's true performance as Spider-Man. He felt like this is a classic Spider-Man film. They finally got the right suit, that wonderful fabric. He's lonely. He's struggling. He's door dashing Little Caesars. And the way it was filmed, too, felt real. The way the sequence, just these little shots, too, where the sequence where Peter is following Ned back to his apartment for a party he's throwing. The music was such a vibe. There was substance there. There was a definitive style. And I feel like that's always been missing in the previous movies. I mean, before, but this was a different era. It really felt like this was Spider-Man. Whereas before, you could say that those movies, previous movies, were he's still a teenage kid. He's a high school student, and it fit how they filmed things, and his humor and what he was going through fit. But this was definitely an elevation of the character's journey, and Tom Holland's performance was probably the best I've ever seen from him, including Zendaya and John Bernthal. They were all great. And Zendaya surprised me, especially how they handled her character of MJ. It's probably the best performance from her. And the Punisher, the Spider-Man chemistry was a delight. I didn't know that was going to be as much of a thing woven through as it was. So it was great. And by far, it was my favorite performance by Mark Ruffalo as both Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Was great. That's probably the best iteration of his performance of the character that I've seen. And I love that he got to be the professor type. I thought it fit very seamlessly in with Spider-Man's story and that particular what they were doing with the mutant DNA. It was fun. It reminded me of Spider-Man 2, that vibe. You know, the character's evolving. It's the choreography, the web slinging, the struggles, the turmoil was great. I can't wait to see it again. It was really well done. I applaud them. They clearly wanted to get it right. I guess there was a lot of things that was pretty chaotic behind the scenes. But yeah, it was great. They did a good job.
Badger, did we hear from you? I've watched your videos. Yeah.
No, I liked it. Thought it was the definitive way showing Spider-Man moving and fighting and swinging and using his powers. Loved his suit. Yeah.
We've got on Rotten Tomatoes 90% critics, 98% audience. Criticless, it's
yep. I got it pulled up.
Oh, we have Robert Meyer Burnett joining us. Hey, Rob.
Hello.
Hey, we're just going around seeing what people thought of this movie. Let's share Criticless here. Let's add that and see what it's doing. What's doing there. Walk us through.
Yeah, we're sitting at an 81%. It honestly has stayed really high the whole time. Early on, it was in like the upper 70s, around 78. But it seems like this is where it's going to stick as far as our audience goes, which I mean, 243 reviews already after just a couple days is a pretty good bit for us, especially as we're growing. And that's it's hard to hit most excellent territory, especially this early on. I mean, if this was something like, if you use like the recent Superman movie, for example, that thing, it was in the 50s and could not get out. And it's still there. But like this thing is generally loved. You'll be scrolling through, and for the most part, it is most excellence and rads all the way down through this thing. Every once in a while, you'll catch a stray bogus or a decent, but it really does seem to be a movie that is really, really resonating with this community and this whole space, which is great because kind of as I joked about superhero movies being back, I mean, yeah, they might be back for about a month. We'll see. But I do think that this is going to really light a fire for people wanting to see Doomsday more, because this is all of these most excellence and stuff is great. And an 81% is an excellent score.
Well, Rob, you're known to have a contrary opinion. I'm curious what you think of Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I loved it to a degree that, I'm going to tell you the truth. I have never been a huge fan of any of the Spider-Man movies. Even like I loved the first half of Raimi's original Spider-Man, and I really liked Spider-Man 2. But my objection to those movies were it felt like it took place in movie world as opposed to the real world. And I always wanted to see a Spider-Man movie that had more of a gritty Sidney Lumet reality. What he would bring to. I wanted to see a real New York Spider-Man movie. And the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, I mean, he's winsome and really great as the character, but again, he was always part of the MCU. He had the suits that were Tony Stark gave him. This movie had almost an A24 vibe to it from the very beginning. I mean, as far as you could make a superhero movie feel that way. And first of all, I thought Steph was saying, I don't think Tom Holland's ever been better. He's so good in this movie. Everybody is great in this movie. I forget the name of her character who's from the video game, the black actress who's his contact with the police. She was great. I love the fact that he had a contact at the New York Police Department who was a mom herself, and their relationship was great. And I thought all the Punisher relationship was awesome. I loved all that. And like the Bruce Banner stuff, I thought this movie was a cut above because it felt to me like a movie that leapt beyond its comic book roots and its MCU roots. It almost felt in a way like a standalone film. And I loved everything about it. I loved the depiction of him swinging around the city. There were times when I was like, whoa, and I'm not scared of heights, but there were some really great moments. And, I read an article that said Kevin Feige, the original character who was the quote unquote villain of the piece, it used to be somebody it was not supposed to be Jean Grey.
That makes sense.
It was somebody that was really, really obscure, and they went with someone else. But I adored this movie, and it was delightful seeing it with an audience. By the time the movie ends and the little thing that happens at the very end before the credits roll, the audience went bananas. They went bananas all through this movie, and clearly people were having a great time at the cinema.
Yeah, the final moment you're talking about is a real human moment. With
so
Ned, with Ned, I got choked up the second time.
Yep.
And what I feel like I would watch a movie with, Ned, MJ, and Peter, not a Spider-Man movie. Those actors, it felt like an indie movie, a very sweet, like coming of age, like awkward in your 20s, trying to, stumble through life. Like that part was awesome. I like the extraneous stuff. The Yelena stuff, you did not need that at all.
No.
It could have been cut out. You didn't need it.
Although I did love it.
I liked it. If you want a contrarian opinion, I
thought she was great.
I just thought if the situation was reversed, it makes no sense.
But it wouldn't work if it was reversed. It's funny because it's Spider-Man. If it was anyone else, even if it was a man, it wouldn't work. It only works because it's Spider-Man.
Well, also it was very New York.
I didn't like it because she was like, "You're small potatoes. We're big potatoes," and I'm like, "He's small." He went up against Thanos. Where were you, ma'am?
But
like, what do you mean he's small potatoes?
Tony was always like that. You're the
original Avenger.
Spider-Man.
He has superpowers. He has superpowers. He does.
Tony was always like that though with him. He was like, "You're just a little neighborhood Spider-Man. You're not."
Well, exactly. That's the thing I like is the reference to the friendly neighborhood. That was more of what I took that as, is like, you're the New York City guy. You're not the guy that goes across the country anymore. You're that guy.
But I liked it because if you play the game Marvel Spider-Man, I'm pretty sure there's a skin where you just have his mask on and boxers. I'm pretty sure you can play as that. And I thought it was a nod to that. And that's why I thought it was hilarious. And when his little toes came up out of the water.
Oh, yeah, that part that made me laugh. Yeah.
It only works just because of Spider-Man.
Yeah. That was like Gen Z. Like my attention is somewhere else now because I'm distracted by the water.
I laughed. I don't know.